The movie is set in dystopian France, where the economic situation has become a nightmare, as only 20% of the citizens are employed and have access to resources. Because of this, the remaining population starts rioting, but help never arrives. Instead, the government banishes them indefinitely. It has been 30 years since that incident. The unemployed people now live in what's called the zone, whereas the employed live in the prosperous part of the town. The two sets of humans are divided by a large wall, which is guarded by impenetrable security. People in the zone suffer from diseases, hunger, and they do not have access to safe drinking water, while the ones on the other side of the wall have all the world's resources at their disposal. In the first scene, we are introduced to a man named Ruben Garcia, who lives in the town with his family. Ruben and his wife, Thais, work as technicians in different parts of Aquaville, the town's only water company. Meanwhile, his shrewd and selfish father, Silas Garcia, is a top-level executive in the same company. Aquaville also supplies water to the zone, but only once or twice a month. This is certainly not enough to satiate the demand, so the zoners often rely on drugs to kill their thirst. One day, all the residents of the zone gather at the wall, where the Prime Minister of France, Nadia Passeron, is set to arrive for a historic visit. As everyone from the town is glued to their televisions, the PM's convoy enters the zone. It's then revealed that 13 months ago, a group of activists from the zone kidnapped PM Nadia's husband, Moretti, who is also the Minister of Labor, in protest of the wall. And after months of negotiation, the two parties have finally reached a deal to free the minister. In her speech, PM Nadia claims that she hopes one day people of different social classes can live together in peace. She then announces that as the first step towards that goal, the activists will release Moretti, and in exchange, 10,000 unemployed zoners will be provided with jobs in the town under the Solidarity Job Program. The announcement stuns everyone inside and outside the wall. While the zoners are elated, the town residents are worried because they haven't interacted with the unemployed people for more than 30 years. Moreover, most people in town hold negative views about them because of hateful propaganda. Soon, Minister Moretti is released, and he returns home with his wife. It is then revealed that PM Nadia dislikes the zoners as much as the average town resident, and she only agreed to the deal because her husband's kidnapping caused an international stir. The World Bank also started threatening her government with sanctions if she continued to ignore the demands of the zoners. Meanwhile, at the wall, the zoners randomly selected for the program are called for an interview. Among them is a single mother, Izia, and her friend, Larkham. The interview is pretty intense, and people who are involved in drugs, trafficking, and gambling are swiftly rejected. At the same time, Izia's only child, Noah, is at a school where his class teacher, Robinson, is criticizing the current French system. He explains that one shouldn't have to work in order to exist with dignity in society. Noah opposes and says that work is liberating. He gives an example of his father, who won a lottery 13 years ago and used the prize money to move to South Europe, where he is happy living now. What does that have to do with work being liberating? The movie then cuts to Aquaville, where Ruben learns that his department head has worked himself to death. However, instead of being sad, Ruben is elated, as he has been waiting to take over his boss's position. Without wasting any time, he then messages his well-connected father, Silas. At the Prime Minister's residence, Moretti gets medical treatment, and it becomes clear that he had been tortured for intel. Later, PM Nadia's head of security, Colonel Jean, interviews Moretti, and the latter assures her that he hasn't divulged any state secrets to the radicals. As a result, Nadia immediately declares that Moretti is fit to work, and again makes him the Minister of Labor. At Aquaville, we learn that Ruben's wife Thais is having an affair with one of her colleagues, Hans. The two are actually conspiring to steal important business data from Aquaville, which they plan to sell in exchange for money, and use it to move abroad and start a new life. See what complacency does to people? However, their attempts have failed so far, as Thais hasn't been able to get anywhere close to her father-in-law Silas's office. To make matters worse, the authorities have started suspecting that Hans is involved in something illegal, and he is being investigated. Later, Ruben tells Thais about his intentions to apply for his late boss's position. He desperately wants the promotion, so he can afford to send their autistic daughter Maëlle to Phoenix Academy, a popular school for specially abled children. This is because if Maëlle keeps studying in normal schools, she won't get any jobs in the future, and thus will end up in the zone. However, the arrogant Thais is confident that Ruben's selfish father won't help him secure the promotion. She also adds that they should have gotten rid of Maëlle a long time ago. Unfortunately, the little girl overhears the conversation and becomes sad, so Ruben goes over to comfort her. The next day, Ruben nervously approaches his father Silas and requests help to secure the management position. Surprisingly, the latter agrees, and he even invites Ruben to an exclusive ministerial party the next day. Meanwhile, Meanwhile, at Aquaville, Hans meets with PM Nadia's head of security, Jean Mars. It turns out both of them are Secret Zone sympathizers, and they are colluding with the activists to find dirt on Aquaville, which is the biggest financial supporter of PM Nadia's government. Thace is set to steal information from Silas's office the next day and flee the zone. Elsewhere, Izia and her friend Larkham clear the interviews and become excited as they are finally getting employed now. Don't get too excited, work sucks. The next day, hundreds of zoners are transported to the town for their first day of work. Izia is assigned to work at Ruben's house, and the latter is stunned to learn that she looks exactly like his wife. Meanwhile, PM Nadia and her team handpick Larkham and make him praise the Solidarity program on TV. In the next scene, Thace is apprehended and taken in for questioning by Aquaville security. Her only offense is that she is frequently hanging out with Hans, a suspected zone collaborator. Ruben, who is getting late for the party, tries to contact her but without success. Hence, with no options left, he convinces Izia to accompany him to the party as his wife. Later, the two reach the venue and are pretty nervous with all the dignitaries around. However, with some help from his father, Ruben and his supposed wife manage to impress the CEO of Aquaville. Meanwhile, after being freed to go, Thace goes straight to Jean and tells her that she couldn't complete the job. Upset, Jean takes Thace out and smuggles her into the zone, where she is picked up by an activist named Boris. The same day, Hans is exposed, so he too is transferred to the zone. After Thace continues to be out of contact, Ruben again asks Izia to play his wife's role the next day. Izia is scared of getting caught, but Ruben offers to pay her a hefty amount, so she reluctantly agrees. With this, he teaches Izia Thace's job and eventually sends her to work. Later, in the news, it is reported that 22 Solidarity workers were attacked by town residents on just the first day. This worries PM Nadia, as she must show the world that reconciliation is happening. Therefore, she appoints Larkham as the special advisor to Minister Moretti so he can help make the Solidarity program a success. Larkham is excited about his new role as he genuinely wants the two sets of people to get along, but Moretti hates the unemployed because of the torture he endured during his captivity. He strangles Larkham and warns him to keep his distance. On the other hand, as Izia tries to adapt to her new job, Ruben goes to officially enter his name in the race to become the director of water quality. Meanwhile, Noah finds a 13-year-old magazine with a cover story on the woman who won the lottery that year. Noah is shocked as he realizes that Izia lied to him about his father winning the lottery. Hurt, he wanders around and meets a local thief, Valley. The two quickly bond, and Valley invites him to her place where they have narcotics. Elsewhere, Thace finally learns that Hans deceived her, and he is actually a zone collaborator. She feels betrayed and threatens to report him. While investigating Hans's spy activities, the police narrow down 3 female employees he came in contact with. One of the women is Izia, aka Thace Garcia. The police present the woman before head of security Jean Mars. Jean is shocked to see someone claiming to be Thace Garcia, as she personally sent the real one to the zone. Later, she follows Thace home and learns that it is actually Izia posing as Thace Garcia. Jean relays the information to the activist from earlier, Boris, and asks him to establish contact with Izia in hopes of using her to steal data from Aquaville. When Izia returns back to the zone, she learns that Noah is missing and starts looking for him everywhere. However, she is approached by Boris. Lo and behold, he reveals that he is actually Noah's estranged father, Ethan. Due to his involvement in the anti-system movements, Ethan abandoned his family and changed his name to Boris. It turns out Izia had to lie to her son to protect his feelings. Ethan asks for her help, but Izia isn't pleased to see him and declines to cooperate. Elsewhere, Noah almost overdoses on narcotics, so a scared Valley drops him at the local teacher Robinson's home. The latter immediately contacts Izia, and the two somehow revive the teenager. After Noah goes to bed, Izia confides in Robinson that she is quitting her job and heading south with her son with whatever she has saved. However, when she returns home, she is devastated to learn that Ethan and his men broke into her room and stole her savings. Hence, left with no choice, Izia agrees to collaborate with the activists, and they give her a chip to insert in Silas's computer. The next morning, it's revealed that Moretti frequently suffers from PTSD, but he keeps his struggles from PM Nadia. He slowly becomes consumed with hatred for the unemployed, and to make matters worse, Nadia unwittingly confides in him that a Solidarity worker killed his employer the other day, and that she stopped the media from reporting it to maintain public order. Meanwhile, Hans learns that Thace hasn't drank water in 2 days, as Ethan has refused to give her clean drinking water. Disturbed and enraged, he confronts Ethan, but the latter refuses to budge. Unable to see her in this state, Hans reluctantly kills her and puts her out of her misery. Why didn't he just give her water? The same day, Ruben appears for a grueling interview, and as part of it, he is given the task of firing his former colleague. Meanwhile, Izia begins to get better at Thesa's job, and during the lunch break, she heads to Silas's office. But on her way there, she encounters the Aquaville CEO, Bartholome. The sadistic man cunningly invites her to his office and then takes advantage of her in exchange for promoting Ruben. Later, a group of Solidarity workers run away from their homes and gather at a place to play football. This alarms the town residents as they are extreme workaholics who don't understand the concept of recreation. Afraid of another controversy, PM Nadia sends Larkham and Minister Moretti to speak with the workers. The latter runs away due to his PTSD, but fortunately, Larkham manages to send the workers back to their employers. On the other hand, Noah again hangs out with Valley, and the two sneak into the town via a secret tunnel. Unfortunately, they are soon spotted by the police, and Noah wanders deeper into the town while Valley runs back to the zone. Fearing for his life, Noah heads to Ruben's house, as his mother had once disclosed the directions to there. After work, Ruben and Izia also head back home, and the latter reveals how the CEO took advantage of her. Surprisingly, Ruben isn't fazed, as it is common in the town for wives to sacrifice their dignity for their husbands. This upsets Izia, and she accuses him of only caring about his promotion. When they reach home, they are stunned to find Noah inside. At this point, the town has also been put on high alert because of the infiltration. Izia is scared for her son's safety, so Ruben offers to drive him to the wall. On their way there, he apologizes to Izia for everything and reveals that he desperately wants the promotion so that he can afford to send his daughter to Phoenix Academy. Shortly after, when the mother-son duo return home, Noah accuses Izia of selling out at work. Puzzled and enraged, she slaps his ass and demands to know why he's been acting out lately. Noah finally confronts her about the lie, and she explains everything about how Ethan abandoned them because of his activism. The next day, Moretti suddenly appears on TV, where he goes on a hateful rant against unemployed people and warns that an invasion is imminent, much to Nadia's dismay. Despite this, she refuses to give up on her husband and puts him under a 24/7 watch. She then seeks advice from her father, Mr. Passeron, who is revealed to be a former French prime minister. The wall was actually built during his tenure. Nadia mentions that she feels the wall was a mistake, but her father asserts that it was the only solution. Later, she asks Larkham to bring a video proof of how the program has changed his life. Nadia plans to release the video before the arrival of the president of the World Bank. At Aquaville, Ruben's competitor for the managerial position finds out about Izia's truth and starts blackmailing Ruben. The latter requests her keep her mouth shut, but she just won't listen. So, with no other way out, Ruben kills her. He then contacts his father, and the two get rid of the body. That evening, Ruben reveals everything to Izia and breaks into tears after realizing what a monster he has become. Izia feels sorry for him and tries comforting him. One thing leads to another, and they end up making love. At the zone, Saul, the leader of the activists, finally arrives and shows himself. In a shocking turn of events, he is revealed to be none other than Noah's teacher, Robinson. He, along with his rebels, are planning to invade the town, but for that to happen, they are counting on Izia to steal the data from Aquaville. The following day, the president of the World Bank finally comes for a visit, and PM Nadia introduces him to Larkham. Later, she holds a private meeting with the president and requests him to release the funds as they are in desperate need of them. However, the president tells her that the international community is apprehensive about supporting her government because she still hasn't removed Moretti, who incited violence against the unemployed, from her cabinet. As a result, PM Nadia finally decides to remove her husband, Moretti, from the cabinet. She also disavows all of his hateful comments towards the unemployed. This finally pleases the World Bank president, and he releases the funds to Nadia's government. Moretti is deeply hurt, and he later admits to Nadia that the rebels forced him into revealing state secrets. It turns out that Aquaville is purposely polluting Zone's water with the government's blessing for profit and power. Nadia panics, but she quickly comes up with a solution. Back in Aquaville, Ruben appears for his final interview before he is selected for the managerial position. At first, he states his strengths, but then he goes completely off topic and frames his final competitor for the murder of Peterson. He also presents bogus evidence doctored by Silas to back his claim, which results in the competitor's disqualification. Meanwhile, Noah and Valley show up at the secret hideout of the activists and demand to meet Ethan. As expected, no one has heard of that name before, and they ask the teenagers to go away. Noah and Valley oblige, but on their way out, they get away from the guard and manage to sneak inside the building. They then eavesdrop on the conversation of the activists, and Noah learns that his teacher Robinson is the leader of the group. In the next scene, Izia returns for work at Aquaville and finally manages to enter Silas's office. She successfully extracts the data in her chip, but before she can leave with it, Silas arrives and catches her red-handed. He attacks her, but she somehow manages to escape, along with the chip. Wasting no time, Silas alerts his son about Izia's treachery victory, and Ruben catches her before she leaves the building. He slaps her, and in the process, she drops the chip. Izia then comes clean that she was forced by the activists to collaborate. Later, Silas advises his son to kill Izia, but Ruben refuses and instead decides to let her go. For all that she has done for him and his daughter, he even drives her to the wall. But before Izia can cross over to the zone, she is caught by Silas's men. She is interrogated, and Silas finally learns that she was supposed to steal data from his computer and hand it over to someone. Silas is enraged by the revelation, but nonetheless, he also takes it as the perfect opportunity to capture the activists. He sends Izia as bait to a rendezvous spot, and when Nadia's head of security Jean shows up, his men capture her. Meanwhile, Larkham is given a chance to permanently move to the town. He excitedly asks his wife to come with her, but she turns him down. This leads to an argument, and Larkham decides to move to the town by himself. A few hours later, he arrives at his new home, where he is ordered to meet Moretti. Shockingly, he finds the former minister floating in the pool, dead. Just as Larkham is trying to make sense of the situation, the Prime Minister's daughter Zoe appears and shoots him dead. Jeez. Later, Nadia finds out about the pamphlets and decides to go through with the last stage of her plan. She appears before the media and announces the murder of her husband, Monroe Moretti. She frames Larkham for the murder and explains that he was shot dead while trying to escape. Nadia then goes on a rant against the zoners, claiming that their hatred towards the unemployed people is reaching dangerous levels. Saying this, she declares the suspension of the Solidarity Work program. She also announces a mass raid on the zone to catch the activists. Amidst all of this, Silas briefs Aquaville CEO Bartholomew about the unfortunate events. On his orders, Jean is burned and tortured before being locked up with Izia. Silas and Bartholomew then meet Nadia and reveal that her head of security, Jean Mars, is actually working for the rebels. Later, grateful to Silas for stopping a major scandal, Bartholomew gives his son Ruben the promotion and also gets little Maël an admission into the Phoenix Academy. Meanwhile, Saul and the rebels learn that Izia and Jean have been caught. Worried for their safety, Hans insists on rescuing the two, but Saul refuses, saying he can't destroy the activist network by trying to rescue them. Noah and Valley overhear the conversation, and they are appalled to learn that the rebels are just as bad as the people they are opposing. Noah then vows to rescue his mother. In the next scene, Silas informs Ruben about his promotion, and the latter excitedly goes to Aquaville to accept his new position. However, there, he finds the chip that Izia had dropped earlier. He plays the chip and is taken aback to see the overwhelming proof of Aquaville poisoning the drinking water for profit and control. Appalled, Ruben decides to anonymously upload the information online and defect from the town for good. He then picks up his daughter and rushes to the wall to find Izia. The bombshell revelation spreads like wildfire, and Saul and the activists rejoice. On the other hand, Silas orders his IT team to trace the person who leaked the information. PM Nadia also panics and immediately comes before the media. She calls the whole leak a smear campaign and warns that strict actions will be taken against those responsible for it. Elsewhere, Ruben and Maël cross over the zone through the secret passage, where they encounter Noah and Valley preparing to enter the town. The two parties have a quick chat, and when Ruben learns that Izia has been arrested, he asks Noah to take care of Maël while he goes to rescue Izia. A while later, the rebels finally launch an invasion from multiple fronts, and Nadia's defense measures are easily overwhelmed. This is because many town residents have started opposing her, and many have already left their jobs. Hans and the others also enter the town to finish the mission. However, Ethan parts ways with them, and he goes to look for Izia. Ruben also shows up at Aquaville, looking for Izia, and Silas realizes that his own son is behind the leak. When the two meet, an enraged Ruben holds his dad hostage and threatens him to reveal Izia's location. Unfortunately, at the same time, the police discover that he is behind the data leak and arrest him. Ruben is then locked up, along with Izia. Nevertheless, he is happy to be reunited with her. Meanwhile, the war intensifies. The walls come down, and thousands of zoners enter the town. Nadia, Zoe, and Bartholomew start smelling defeat, and it begins to worry them. At the PM's residence, Zoe breaks into tears and blames her mother for everything. She vows to join hands with the rebels and testify against her before storming out. On the other hand, the prison guards are ordered to shoot all prisoners. As one of them shoots Ruben, Ethan suddenly shows up and neutralizes the guard. He and his men take Izia and a wounded Ruben to safety. At the same time, Sol reaches the PM's residence and seemingly executes her behind closed doors. hours. Just then, Zoe arrives and offers to help him manage the country. 3 days pass by. Ruben recovers in the hospital, and Izia reunites with her Noah. The latter finally meets his father, Ethan, but realizes that after so many years apart, he is now just a stranger. Izia then tells Ruben that she wants to choose the third option and become his wife. Much to Ruben's joy, Noah also accepts the decision, and he asks Vali to come live with his family, but Vali politely declines and parts ways with him. At a press conference, Sol finally announces the end of the discriminatory political system and the beginning of a new, equal, and better life. Spoken like a true politician. Later, he speaks to former PM Mr. Passaran, and shockingly, it's revealed that Sol is actually his son and Nadia's brother. He had thrown Sol out because of his political indifferences. In the final scene, as Mr. Passaran is berating his son, Nadia suddenly appears, and it turns out she has also joined forces with Sol, much to the old man's astonishment. Subscribe for more videos like this, turn on notifications, and leave a like to help the channel out. Thank you for watching.